Yeah, and from what I understand, there was a new rule implemented where if you win one of the qualifiers, you don't have to play in the rest.
Mm,
So some more teams being able to get to that first place, get to the finals, get some extra money in their pocket, and of course,
mm,
score a ton of points as well. But let's talk about our first matchup we're going to be watching here today. It is Hefty Lobster versus Games Awful. Tons of names that we have seen before between these two rosters here. For Hefty Lobster, we've got Sphinx, or Daddy Sven. We've got
hmm,
Verdkoven, aka Living Like Radthar, which is his name in the game. Shout out to Radthar out there. You got Bluffus, who changed his name to
mm,
Bluff Can't Snipe, but we know him as Bluffus. And then you have Mikey O Nation, who thankfully has kept the same name in the game as well. And then on the other side, some more notable
mm,
names that we've seen before from Games Awful. We've got Cool, which you and I know from Paladins and now Road
right.
Company, formerly known as Cool Matt, but just going by Cool here. We have
Mm,
Highlight, Remix, and Neg as well. I mean, all of these players have been on some really, really good teams in
mm,
the past, most notably the four coming out of Games Awful. But, I mean, Hefty Lobster, if you're looking at these past two qualifiers, they're going to be doing hopefully better than they have in the first
mm,
two qualifiers. I think they finished in qualifier number one. They lost in the quarterfinals to Best Snake. Best Snake ended up coming in second to Cute Hamster. So they lost to a team that made it to the finals, ended up getting second overall. Qualifier number two, which was last week, they lost to the Homies. The Homies ended up making the finals again, and they ended
mm.
up winning that qualifier. So now Hefty Lobster just need to get over that hump of losing to the teams that make it to the finals and make it there themselves. But each week they've gotten there a little bit slower. And fun. Now
Mm.
I want to know Hefty Lobster versus Games Awful. Who do you think is going to be able to win this and why?
Hmm. I definitely think it's going to be a little bit more of a closer matchup between these two teams. I mean, you mentioned it before. I mean, like both of these guys, we know some of them from Paladin's Core being one of the people it was that you mentioned, but also the fact that Hefty Lobsters, every week they come back hungrier and they come back hungrier and hungrier, and that can be a sort of telltale sign as to what you can expect from Hefty Lobster as the weeks go on. I definitely am impressed with how they've been playing so far. Still, whether they get knocked out of the quarterfinals, whether they get knocked out of the semis, it's still important to know that they still have managed to push forward. They come back every week. They make sure that they put their best foot forward, and sometimes that drive is enough. Sometimes you could just want it more. You catch a team lacking on a weird day, on an off day, and you feel a lot better about it coming into the matchup once you start getting that momentum. I definitely would say that I feel like Hefty Lobsters are the people to look out for. Despite, once again, cool. I apologize. I know you from Paladins, my friend. I do. We have a long history together, me commentating your matches, but even still, I definitely think that Hefty Lobsters, I would be careful around them. They have something to prove today.
Something to prove indeed for both these
Mm,
teams. One side, you've got a team that's just really good players mechanically, and they've proven that time after time. Then on the other
mm,
side, with Hefty Lobster, you've got a team that continuously improves every day. Let's look at the series layout. Let's see where these teams are going to be battling it out. It is a best of three, so let's go ahead and take a look at those three maps that will be coming up. We've got Canals, Windward, and Favelas. Of course, Canals will be our demolition. Windward for our King of the Hill. And then, if necessary, Favelas will be the demolition for game number 3 as well. Bans already in place as well. Fixer was unavailable last week, from what I've been told. I was on vacation, tried to stay away from electronics as much as
mm,
possible there, Fawn. But Fixer was disabled in game, but now he's back, which means that he's available to be played. And of course, that would lead to him to being banned once again. And then on the other side, we have Glitch being banned. Something I noticed, I wasn't able to go back and watch the VOD because of Twitch reasons, but
mm,
there was a lot of Lancer being played because of that quick and quiet buff that she got in the
mm,
latest update. And also a lot more Talon, a lot more Ronin, because now her passive is a little bit better. But King of the Hill, we could see the new character. We could see that new Rogue Switchblade come out. I've heard that she was pretty much picked on Respawn the entire time. Not so
mm.
much demo, but she just brings a lot of AoE damage with that rocket launcher, for one, that turns into I guess you could say, a Tyra firebomb, right? Like, we're used
Yeah,
to that
right.
from playing Paladins with Tyra. It's just fire spreading
Mm.
on the floor. Now we get that with this character as well.
And of course, just like with Tyra Firebomb, you have a lot of situations where that firebomb or that warhead, that napalm warhead, the chaos launcher, I believe is what it's called, has a lot more impact. A lot of
Yes.
these more choke point sort of these control point areas as opposed to demo. That makes sense as to why everybody would bring her out on the respawn locations. There's a lot more consistent fights, and sometimes you need that lockdown. Depending on the map, there's obviously more situations where you could utilize her launcher a lot more than you could effectively on demo. And since that's the case, that means that it might be easier for those people to have sort of a advantage, air quotes, obviously. It depends on how the person is playing the character, but even still, having a little bit of extra AoE never hurt anybody. And then on top of that, you have the fight and flight passive as well. I mean, she gets extra movement speed from using her abilities or gadgets. I mean, it allows her to be able to rotate effectively. It allows her to be able to use her gadgets well. And because of that, I think it works wonderfully on these respawn game modes. So I can imagine we see her a lot more frequently as the weeks go on. She seems to be a very strong operator.
Yeah, she's got some really good perks in her kit as well. If you're looking at something like a respawn game mode like King of the Hill, Replenished, Life Drain, Tenacity. I mean, those are three of some of the best in a respawn game mode. Some of those in Demolition as well. But hey, for right now, we are going to our game number 1, Demolition on Canals, of course, between Hefty Lobster and Games Awful. Those of you just joining us, this is a quarterfinals matchup. I'm realBluTV. I'm joined with Fawn. We're jumping into this game, and look at already a lot of reveals coming out for that attacking side. We've got Talon and we've got Seeker. They paired up with a Dahlia and a Chalk. Dahlia linking up with the Chalk there. That obviously is something we been accustomed to in the past. That's something that we've seen a lot of, especially from the attacking Chalks, who are usually those bomb carriers. Might not see him carrying the bomb this time around as it is in Seeker's hands. Meanwhile, on the defensive side, a little pretty standard. We got the Kestrel coming out, the Dahlia, the Anvil, and then a Talon, of course, since it is little, Talon's been played a little bit more since the update, but also it's Canals, and that's something we're used to.
And so for right now, so they're trying to make their way onto B site. Obviously, things are being locked down by red team so far. So everyone's just sort of just waiting. No one's really pushing too far forward right now, mainly to make sure that they can ban out any gadgets or utility or even shots to get any info for their team. They're pushing in, and Dahlia comes around the corner, but she gets shot in the back. Wasn't able to quite clear the angles. Just since she swung alone, Cool is going to be the first one that goes down.
Yeah, that was really just off that great trophy placement. That APS by Anvil was placed perfectly, was able to take out the Talon Dart actually in midair. So one of the 2 reveal possibilities are no longer on the board. Seeker also used his arrow, a little bit of a quick rejuvenation on that ability, however, so it's almost back up, maybe a few more seconds. Grenade comes out, planting the bomb on the defender side of that propane tank. Daddy Siphon playing on the angle, watching that B-long section there with Seeker. That's Remix. He's going to start and maybe possibly make a move around, finally get some shots on the Bluffus. Daddy Siphon goes down. Another one goes down, and it's just 2v2 now with the Anvil Talon for the defensive side. Seeker arrow comes out. That does reveal one member, being the Talon, I believe. A little bit of a bomb fake.
Oh,
Anvil's not going to win that fight with Remix. Now it's Neg just face tanking up against like Radthar. Ended up losing that one. The bomb is still probably most likely going to go off. The shield was placed. He could try and make for a defuse, but as soon as he goes to touch it, that swing coming in from the Seeker could prove to work out. He ended up losing that gunfight, but the bomb still goes off. So the attackers will take round number 1.
And sometimes it's less about making sure that they actually lock down the bomb in its entirety. Sometimes it's about stalling, right? Seeker knows that he's going to move in, he's going to die without a little bit of extra time. Obviously, since we defuse in this game, it freezes the bomb timer. You're going to want to make sure that you create a situation that allows people to move in, that allows people to take care of what needs to be taken care of. In that case, it was the bomb being planted, and they need to stall out for as much time as possible. It's not always about winning the fight. When the bomb goes down post-plant, there's always a different story, a different strategy, no matter what tactical shooter it is that you look at. I loved how they played that. I loved how passively things went at first, but it sort of shifted to work out for them. It forced them to play a little bit more forward. Hefty Lobsters had to move a little bit more in, and because they had to commit to that, it obviously ended up with them losing. Games awful. Take this first round.
Now it looks like they're pushing towards that B site once more, something that we're commonly used to on this map. Talendart a little bit safer on that release this time around. Doesn't want to lose it to another APS around that corner where those boxes are placed in that little cut. Mikey's still playing inside with the anvil. Shots being traded back and forth. They know he's there, but he knows two of them. He has to back up. And then Talon's walking straight. Bluffus finds one, falls super low. Has to back up once more. And then look at living like Radthar out here. Finding one on the remix. Highlight did respond on the Bluffus, but Mikey comes through short once more with the pistol, able to down Cool, and only one member standing. It is Highlight with the chalk, shoots the C4 in midair, and that takes out the man who threw it. Finishes him off. 1v1, both staring at each other. They know exactly what the other person is trying to do at this moment. Throws the bomb, trying to see if he can kind of distract him, maybe get him to make a little bit of a first step mistake. That won't work out. Talon wins that gunfight, evens it out at 1 apiece.
Yeah, and I definitely think there's a situation where you swing around the corner trying to see if you can get the trade on Kestrel, pops the drones immediately, and obviously it forces the person that swings around to back up, and that's exactly what happens. So they get a kill for free, they get a kill for free and then some, right? They're able to make sure that not only do they get one kill without being traded out, but it allows them to still keep control over the site. It allows them to still play a little bit more passively if they need to. They have the intel on the other side, though, on the side of Games Awful. So obviously that means that things went a little bit awry towards that round. But I love how they've been playing it so far. If I were Games Awful, I would swap where I'm going. I wouldn't try and continuously push into B side. I feel like it's a little bit harder for them to try and retake, or not retake, but push into how things have been playing, especially with people watching mid and with people watching for the flank. I definitely think that it's a little bit harder to push on B side. A might be the better choice here, since they continuously stack B.
Especially with the amount of reveals that they have in their kits, the sticky sensors coming from Seeker as well as the arrow. They did use a sticky sensor to waste an APS from the side of Anvil through mid once more. Now the Seeker arrow is going to be coming out, seeing if they can isolate the one member being Anvil, and they are able to finally take him out. There was a return kill onto the Talon. Now Seeker goes down as well, living like Ranthar out here. Another one, and that's something that you can see Talons, if they execute perfectly, they can be very devastating. Picks up the C4. Jock did find that from a dead Anvil, able to not win that gunfight. Bluffus found another one as well on that Kestrel, someone he's starting to play a lot more of and get a little bit better with. Bluffus starting to make a name for himself in the scene, just starting to pick himself up and deepen his pool there, Fawn.
Yeah, and I definitely think that that flank was paid off big time. The minute that they got that first contact, that engagement happened, they were able, you saw Remix being able to get it down, he was able to get a kill, but even still, living like Radthar on the side, making sure that he's flanking around people. That first contact happens, nobody's expecting him to be there. And so since that's the case, that was one of the first times I actually saw them push through flank, and it ended up paying off. I believe he's going over here because he thinks that they're going to come to A, but it seems like they're just committing to B once again. I'm not too sure how I feel about this, honestly. This is another time where this has happened, but it seems like they're trying to opt to go for more mid control instead of just trying to push through sight.
Well, from what I've gathered, both watching, casting, and just listening to some of the players through their streams and things of that nature, they say on this map, B is the go-to site and A is a little bit harder for the attacking side. And I think Talon on that defensive side, just going through that A motion is just to check it. And then he's able to use his dart, finds one in mid. Mikey finds Cool with the C4. Everything's going awry for the attackers once more. And that's something we talked about. A team on one side who's been improving week after week, even if their names don't bring the same type of status as their opponents. Right now, they're leading 3-1, Fawn, after a devastating B push that didn't even cross mid-court, basically.
Yeah, and definitely bomb getting dropped immediately in mid as well, sitting one off to the side. Highlight obviously trying to flank on the chalk, and try to push through mid, see if he can gain that mid control. He's the one with the bomb, so once he goes down, that becomes an entirely new story in any tactical FPS it is that you look at. I B may be the go-to site, but it doesn't seem like it's working here. If you want me to be completely honest with you, people may feel more comfortable going to B site, but this has still been time and time again where things have been going awry, and now it seems like Hefty Lobsters have sort of adapted to their strategy of pushing through B. If they want to, they could opt to go for a fake. I would say they could split up their resources, split up their team, see what it is that they can do. I think that might be the best bet, but I definitely don't think that they should keep going B. I feel like this is a struggle for them, and it's proven that that's the case. Chalk leading the way now.
Looks like he was trying to isolate Mikey, but his teammate, of course, being Kestrel right on the other side of the boxes. They're walking in. Thought it would just be one member there, but instead it was two. Living like Ranthar out here once again, chasing down Neg to finish off this round. Another one goes towards the defense. Yeah. Another thing is, look at the downs for the attacking side. 4 for highlight. The rest of the team, 3 combined with 1 apiece. They just aren't able to win these gunfights. Living like Ranthar, whether he's playing up front with the rest of his team as he was in that previous round, or like 2-3 rounds ago where he's flanking behind using the padded steps as well as his radar dart to help him gather as much intel as possible and get through quickly as he has those quiet footsteps while walking. I mean, he is just putting in work for this team right now. Hefty Lobster starting to pull away as they are in the driver's seat. 4-1 now.
I'll find you.
As we are starting off round number 6. And it looks like they listened to you, Fawn. You willed it into fruition, and now they're starting to move towards that A site.
Then they have to find out a way to rotate quick enough, because now there's 4 of them potentially pushing. The radar dart is out, and they have plenty of intel on where everyone is. Even still, to find some sort of way to completely take over the site. Highlight leading the charge and pops the active ability, swings around the corner to the right, looking for the first engagement, first contact made. Highlight manages to get the kills and the down as well. That might be curtains. The rest of them follow suit. Neg, Remix, Highlight, all of them go down. Flashbang goes out, but it's only stalling what seems to be the inevitable. They're able to get the bomb down, but the C4 might be a different story. Talon still has plenty of ammo left in the clip, but if they swing together, the power of friendship will rule through. Round 1, and that seems to be Game's awful second point in this match.
I'm going to be honest. He stayed alive a lot longer than I expected he would, especially when 3 of them were pushing into the doorway. He was able to flashbang all of them. I think he flashbanged himself as well. That's why he wasn't able to kill anyone there at the start of that engagement. Got one with a C4, finished him off, so he did get some extra money with that 1 kill. But moving forward, 4-2, still good way to start things off against a team that probably a lot of people don't expect you to beat. I mean, I don't think they're the favorites coming into this. I think a Game's Awful would be, just on paper. You know, a lot of people rooting for Cool out there. He's won a 10K as well, so he's got that under his belt. Now they're starting to move towards A once again. It worked out for them. First time they tried it, it worked. So maybe they're going to try and see if they can get it done again. Take this round and make it a 4-3 half. Darts coming out. Look at Siphon getting taken by Neg. 3 shots from the Deadeye, and that's exactly what happened.
Now that he's down, that means that they have to dedicate time and resources to make sure they can pick up their teammate. They do, and they even get it down off of the trade here. Highlight is in C4 around the corner just to check, trying to get intel on where people are. They push tube, and they do manage to get 1. Mikey already taken out of the fray for this round. Scores 4-2, but they've evened the odds so far on the side of Game's Awful. Have yet to plant the bomb, though. But they are making the kills necessary. They get Cool, they get Neg. That's 2 down, though. That might be a little bit more spooky. As they manage to get the last kill, that's going to be a 5th point for Hefty Lobsters. That is a great look, though I believe is the end, yes, of the first half. Now that they're going to have to swap shoes on the other foot now, and I think that I'd be a little bit more concerned if I was on the side of Hefty Lobsters. They now, even though they have the momentum, we've seen how dangerous and how hard it can be to push on attack on B side or on A side. If they're expecting it, they might try and split up their resources. Who knows? But even still, Hefty Lobster still, the game is not over yet. Got to stay on your toes.
I think this might just be Hefty Lobster's week, man. Fawn. I mean, look at it.
Maybe.
Qualifier number 1, you can see on the bottom of the screen, they were a quarterfinalist. Then the next week, they were a semifinalist. This week, will they be a finalist? If the pattern continues, I think that might just be how it works out for them. Although they did lose in all of those 2 matchups, so maybe they'll make the finals and then end up falling a little bit short. Won't become the champion for today's tournament. But hey, who knows? They're playing very well at the moment here. It's Hefty Lobster making their way on attack towards that B site. They had a really good A defense for that final round of the first half. They knew exactly what their opponents thought would work for them a second time around, and it did not end up being the truth. Dallas coming out this time on the attacking side. They brought a Vi and a Ronin as well, so totally shifting the focus and the composition here. A reveal a little bit differently than how Town and Seeker would bring to the table for them, but still a reveal nonetheless. And they have a Ronin out there because they know the Town will come out on the defensive side, so they don't want all 4 members being susceptible to that. As I say that, Cool being susceptible to giving himself away. He knows that 2 are in B long from the attacking side. They did trade some shots, but rejuvenation has come through for everyone, so everyone's back to full health. Cool still playing a little bit of peekaboo with him. Now the Vi Poison comes out, as well as a smoke from Dahlia, and that might just be the go button for this attacking side. Look at Cool. You can see him through the smoke. He knows exactly where to look and when on that rotation after the smoke comes through. Highlight finds Siphon, and now shots being traded. 10 health to bluff is his name. He finally falls, but Siphon did find Cool with the Ronin knife. That ballistic knife getting a little bit of a buff if you hit someone with it too a few patches ago. Siphon finds Highlight. Neg responds with the C4. It is a 2v1, the 1 being the attacker. Bomb, however, was not planted, and that will be the end of that round.
I think what's so interesting about that last round is how it was played more than anything. I mean, Game's awful, sure, they get the 3rd point here. But at the end of the day, it was interesting how Hefty Lobsters played that. It was like they sent somebody mid to try and gain that intel on the opposing side. And they made it up pretty far through mid, didn't go down. And since they knew where that intel was, I guess they sort of used the process of elimination. They're like, okay, well, we don't see anybody there. Wasn't shot, wasn't killed, nobody swung on me. So since that's the case, we can assume that most of them are B. And from that point on, that's when the smoke grenade got tossed out. That's when they tried to make their move. When the rotation was successful enough, they were able to group up. Then they made their final. Then they tried to make their push, but it didn't work out. Game's awful. They were just ready for it. So with that being the case, I wonder, do they try again? That's the story for this round.
Well, I mean, from what we can notice here, just the 2 different stats. Maybe it's the update. A lot more things are getting balanced out. A lot more things are viable in the compositions and such. But just not just the different compositions, but the different playstyles from these teams. I mean, on the defensive side, you saw Hefty Lobster, playing so far up into that middle section towards B and just being very aggressive, putting Anvil there, not allowing anything, and hold that thought. Remix getting shot in the back here. Incen will come out. That'll take down 1. Remix downed himself with Halo drones. Remix, you can't be doing that, friend. Now, the LW6 revolver won't be enough. Cool finds the living like Radthar. Thought he would get a little cheeky flank on him, but the rest of his team comes through that middle warehouse, and now they're starting to make plays. Cool stuck in an Incen, falling super low, is going to have to back out. Vi Poison to one side. He will possibly go down here, but no, he wins that gunfight against Mikey. It's a 1v1. Dahlia versus Ronin. The bomb has been planted about 25% through that timer, as well as we're looking to get towards that halfway mark. Now he gets onto site, picks up a main weapon from someone. It looks like that was a town weapon he picked up, as it is a Deadeye. Going back and forth, just trying to find an angle, see if he can force this player to come out of hiding. He does find it, and he gets the defuse with plenty of time. What a play and a good comeback from the beginning of a devastating round. Cool makes the plays. Only one away from tying. It's 5-4. The lead, though, still in favor of Hefty Lobster.
My goodness, man. Well played from Cool. First, he wins the 1v1 off of no HP, and then he proceeds to move on to site to play even better, to not only get the kill, but defuse the bomb and give his team another point added to their back pocket. You got a 4-5 score now, and it's looking to be the momentum carries itself. Game's awful. They can end up having a tie immediately. Depending on how this round goes, obviously, Hefty Lobsters have to sort of find some sort of way to break that monotony. Now, we saw the trouble of it before. I mentioned the fact that they could split their team up. They could have 2 on B, 2 on A. But what you saw that happen was it gave up mid control because you have to worry about mainly taking control and playing site. Somebody tries to go for a rotation. Dallas was there to try and put him down and pick him off. But now it seems like that both teams have sort of gone back to tradition here. 1 on A site, 3 on B, and Hefty Lobsters are going for the B push.
Interesting enough, it's the third round here in the second half, and Dallas still no primary weapon. I think he might have had enough money to buy one, but just maybe chose not to. Or maybe he's just getting wrecked, and he's not able to buy anything heavy like his AR, which got buffed, by the way. A little bit more headshot damage in the way of that assault rifle, but if you hit heads already, the devotion could pay off for you. Smoke grenades coming out on the B site now. Mikey trying to push back the Kestrel with that insend will do so. He has Vi there to help him out if he needs it. Now look at the play. Cool
right
playing
now
in the back. Off that B site there, Fawn. And now the fight's starting to happen. Ballistic knife comes through from Siphon onto Remix, but Mikey fell and got taken out.
To look for right now. Dallas is the one trying to push through 2. Cool does manage to get 1. Siphon goes down. And Dallas manages to find another pick, living like Radthar. Putting in work here. Cool. Downs another one. They get the trade, but Highlight hasn't been picked up yet. See that this is not in favor of them, and it isn't. They try and rotate off of site, rotate through mid, see if they can try and get to the opposite side of the map. But that's just not how it's going to be. They end up tying things up. Game's off. Will make it 5-5 against Hefty Lobster.
Nice comeback from the defenders here. The map does look a little bit more defensive sided in the past couple times we've seen Canals here. But I mean, living like Radthar, good flank, got 1 knock, got it done there onto the anvil. Then tries to retreat while he's getting shot, has to reload, and hello, come on, you're getting shot through the crate bridge, and you know there's that small opening to the right. He comes out of the bridge and then kind of just lollygags in that opening. So I think he kind of just allowed himself to get shot like that. He's got to make better decisions, get behind cover a little bit quicker if he wants to stay alive. Maybe even just pop the ability. If you know you're going to lose, pop that ability for your teammates to gather that intel before you go down. Otherwise, it's just wasted. Nice insend comes through, but it doesn't matter. Cool and Highlight combining for 2. As they already make this a 2v4. Defenders have the advantage once more. Siphon coming through all the way onto Big Blue in the back of the defender side, but Negs finds him once again as Remix finishes him off. And the Deadeye in Negs' hands looking good here on defense. 6-5 now as the lead finally goes back towards Game's Awful side.
I mean, you mentioned Highlight and Cool. That's exactly what we saw happen on B side. Most of them were stacked towards A. They were putting the chips out on the table. They were making a bet. They were saying that maybe they come A site. Maybe we can make that work for us. If they do, we're already ready for them. But instead they go B. But even though they have limited numbers on B, they don't end up taking the side. As a matter of fact, they lose that round. And obviously Games Off will go up 6-5. We're talking about a situation here where they tried to mix things up. They tried to go A. They tried to go B. Now they're back on B. And I think I'm not too sure how I feel about this one. I mean, they struggled last time trying to push on B. People feel like B might be the easier site, but yet we've struggled to see anyone consistently take over B. And it's situations like this where they already get a pick, it might be a little bit easier for them, hopefully, outside of Hefty Lobster. Our magic can
Well, he finally
calm
has a
down.
primary weapon, and it happens to be the assault rifle, which, of course, like I said, headshot damage increased from 40 to 42 for those of you unaware. So if you hit the heads, a little bit more damage from the assault rifle here. He's made his rotation all the way through that little mid-cut past the warehouse. Now he's working on the backside, seeing if anyone's going to try and make a play for where he just came from. Bomb has been planted. I think that's only the second time from this attacking side of Lobster. They do find one on the cool, and look at the Dallas coming from behind. Made his move. Happened to be a good one. Can he win the fight? Yes, he can. A little punch to see if he can confirm it, but he didn't even need it. Couple shots from the revolver finished him off. 6-6. We have a tie game here, and if you had to ask me who's going to win this right now, I wouldn't know. The defense looks good, but just when you say that, the attacking Lobster, they clamp down with their claws there.
Yeah, it seems like for right now, this obviously being tied up, the team that takes us into the next match will be, not next match, excuse me, team that takes us to the next round will be on match point. For the very first point in the set, it's Hefty Lobsters, once again, make their way down. A couple of them going B. One of them splitting off, though. Going A. See if he can go for the long flank here, as one of them's already set up in warehouse. As they're waiting for any possible rotation through mid, Dallas instead takes the longer route. He's going through A just to lock things down, but I don't think he knows that Neg is there. But he is going to play passively. He's still going to wait.
What's crazy is we talk about this assault rifle he's using getting a little bit of a buff to the headshot damage. His revolver also had a change. He's the only one with that revolver, and it had a fire rate increase from 2.78 to 303. So it takes a little bit longer to get those shots completely out of that clip, but he was able to do so pretty effectively. And look at the flank from Remix. Hello. Couple shots to the dead body there to kind of show off that he's the superior Padded Steps member here, as that is pretty much the only characters that have come out for Living Like Radthar. Talon, Dallas so far both have Padded Steps available. Remix now working with his teammate. They're back on that defensive side. Nice push. Siphon finds Cool with the ballistic knife once again. They downed each other. The MXR coming through for Cool. That also got a fire rate increase in the latest update. A lot of guns getting a lot of changes. Bomb has been planted. 3v2, the 2 being the attacking side. Anvil Shield comes through from Highlight. Now Bluffus has to try to make a move, but Remix is covering him perfectly. Shield would have been in the way anyways. And now, Mikey O'Nation, the last man standing, but it doesn't matter. Bomb's been defused, Fawn.
Yeah, that is genuinely the power of Anvil and the power he brings post-plant. You see he sets up the barricade. He obviously goes for the bomb defusal. It works out, and that nets them that round. A beautiful retake on the side of Game's Awful, but even still, they've got one more round to win. They want to be able to take this first match. Hefty Lobsters currently sitting 6-7. 2 more rounds remaining on either side. Well, excuse me, one more round remaining on the side of Game's Awful. 2 more rounds for Hefty Lobsters. So I want to see how they sort of mix up their potential here. They are going to go A this time, it seems like. They want to sort of full send that towards A. Dallas getting the information last time, knowing that there's only one person on there, was great. But this time, they're playing with 2. I think they might know one's in mid and there's only one on B. So depending on how this engagement goes on A, they might just try and rotate.
Yes, and once again, we're watching Vi this time. Her gun also got a little bit of a change. The body damage was increased from 17 to 18 on that Nightshade. So, well, I mean, I can't stress enough. There was a lot of changes that came through. I mean, Kestrel's bonus cash passive was reduced from 1,000 to 500. We've seen her in this game already. We've also seen Ronin, whose underground passive ability, she's not just hidden on the minimap. She's also immune to reveals and enemy radar detection. So we've seen her come out, of course. Speaking of coming out, Mikey O'Nation came out the doorway and got fried by Remix. Talon's gotten a change too. His Talon Dart got buffed. It now covers 23 meters instead of 20. Seeker got a couple buffs, actually. I mean, his recharge rate was decreased from 45 to 40 seconds on his arrow. Deadeye from Neg. Throws the flashbang.
Oh, no.
Thought he was going to get the drop on someone. Speaking of getting the drop on someone, living like Ranthar, another flank on to Cool this time around. Highlight, the only member standing for the defense, finds one with the LMG in his hand. Can he find anything else? Looks like they are swarming around. Remix might get revived. Never mind. Highlight finds Ranthar. He's in a 1v1. Bomb has been planted. He's got to get to it. It was planted right at the timer. Cutting it close there. Ronan, the only member standing for the defense now. Look at her crouch walking. Look at the movement there. Doesn't want to give away her position, but wants to move as fast as possible. So a little bit of crouch spam to get through there. Knows where Highlight is now. Highlight trying to pull the cool move we saw earlier. Shield comes out.
There it is.
Doesn't have a ballistic knife.
Bomb
Bomb fake comes through.
Oh, he tried to melee.
Tried to throw the melee, and it was unsuccessful. We're going to overtime here in game number 1 of our Road Company Showdown. Brought to you by Checkmate Gaming. Qualifier number 3, and it's looking like it's going to be a pretty long night if this is the way all our games are going to go, Fawn.
Yeah, this is looking to be a very intense match already. I mean, this is 7-7. We're going to the final point for either side to take this very first match on Canals, and I think that this is a story of how Hefty Lobster has been coming back. I mentioned it. Every week they're hungry, and it's clearly showing. They've been adapting their strategy. They've been trying to move forward. They've been trying to get this opportunity to work for them in whatever way possible. And hard work is definitely what we're seeing here. The fruits of their labor paying off as they've tied things up 1-1 against, 7-7 against Games Awful to see if they can take this first match and get their first point in this set.
Yeah, we've seen some really good plays coming out of some, the rogues that can flank very well. I mean, Kestrel, Dallas, Talon, all with the ability to get the perk Padded Steps. And guess what, Fawn? That's right, you guessed it. Padded Steps was also changed in our recent update. The cost of it went from $3,000 to $4,000, so an extra $1,000 to get that Padded Steps. But it seems like it's not that big of a problem for most of these players. Still making plays with it. And Padded Steps, it's one of those plays. It's kind of like Replenish. You can just become a playmaker because of that one perk. So if you're able to grab that as fast as possible, you have the playmaking potential as quickly as possible. Speaking of playmaking, ballistic knife comes out, and oh my goodness, Neg ends up going down after all. His teammate was helping him out there as he took out Siphon, but didn't matter. The trades came through 2 even on each side. Mikey found another one for himself as well. Bomb finally getting planted, really waiting until the last few seconds of the round to get it down.
Yeah.
Still a 2v2. You got the Anvil Dahlia combo on the defensive side. Remember, this is for all the marbles here in game number 1.
Oh.
Highlight gets taken out by Mikey, who's been playing phenomenally in these later rounds here. It's kind of being a nuisance there at the beginning of the game on the defensive side, playing as the Anvil. Kind of went quiet towards those middle rounds, but now he's making a move once again, but never mind. Highlight gets picked up. The Dahlia link came through.
You serious?
Mikey, I just praised him. He didn't finish off Highlight, so that means Dahlia picked him up. Shout out to the art and animation team, by the way. The new victory screens and all of that jazz looking really good in this newest update. Of course, those got changed too. Nothing's safe. Everything's getting changed here.
Everything's different.
Hey, those looked that last round, it got pretty intense there towards the end. I mean, Mikey made a really nice play there, Fawn, but of course, not the greatest play because he didn't finish him off, wasn't able to. Maybe it would have put himself in a bad position, but the Dahlia link comes through. That allowed him to make plays afterwards. Good job, Highlight, getting the bomb diffused as well and winning that game in overtime. Let's go ahead and take a look at those replays. Fawn, break it down for us. What happened that game?
So it was, I guess you could put it as the battle of the bees. I guess that makes sense, but not, of course, for those of you that are just tuning in, not talking about the insect here. I'm talking about the battle of bee sight. That seems to be the primary focus of everyone on both of these teams. They wanted to go a lot for this control over B, but every time it was met with opposition. People typically know that that's where whoever the attackers may be, whatever team you might be on, that's who they want to go for. Only the inclusion of the mixture of deciding to go for B sometimes, going for A little bit of the times, it went awry, not only during a few clutch moments like this for either side. You have situations where you lose in 1v1s like that against the Ronin trying to melee throw. And then you have situations like this where Highlight clutched it out, like you mentioned, thanks to the Dahlia passive, right? So the thing it is to take away from this set is more so just the implication and just the sheer fact that these guys are on their A game today. I definitely will be a little bit more careful about dedicating so many resources to one site, because I feel like Games Awful lost so many rounds trying to force a B push that just was never there. The minute they tried to use the inclusion of mixing in A site as well, that's when things started going a little bit better for them.
Hey, it went well enough in that last round. Games Awful takes game number 1, 8-7 on Canals for our demolition. Now we're going to Windward for King of the Hill. And liking these series layouts, by the way. It's giving me some Picasso or Van Gogh vibes. Like, it's giving me some museum vibes with those pictures being like that. A little stretch res for the players that play in stretch res. It's looking good, though. We're going King of the Hill. We're going to Windward. This is a nice map. It's especially nice for King of the Hill. Spawns can sometimes get out of hand here, and also the rotations are kind of tricky because there's that middle intersection when it happens to be the D objective, and there's about 4 or 5 different angles you can play just off of entry points alone, so things can get very hectic here. Fawn, what are you expecting in game number 2? You expecting a Switchblade to come out or what? We want to see some rocket launchers going back and forth?
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, seeing the Chaos Launcher, I don't think there's ever a time where anybody wouldn't want to see a rocket launcher unless you're playing against it. Then maybe that will be a little bit more of a different story as time goes on throughout the rounds. But we talked about it before the set even began, before we even saw that first match. It's the inclusion of Switchblade. Those of you that don't know, everything. If you're not a fan of change, this may not be the patch for you, because there was a tons of things changed and also a ton of things added. Switchblade being one of those characters that is currently in the discussion of how often she wants to be played on these respawn maps. She has her Chaos, she has her Chaos Launcher, and she has Fight and Flight. Her Chaos Launcher pretty much launches out a big AoE napalm around the site. It makes it more easy to lock down, and I think that plays a huge role into how respawn game modes can typically go. You have Fight or Flight. Every time she uses an ability, every time she uses a gadget, she gets that increased mobility. And that can be huge in terms of rotations, especially in situations that might put you on Strikeout, that might put you on King of the Hill, and things could be a lot more dangerous with that being the case, in all honesty. I personally imagine seeing a Switchblade if she's not banned, in all honesty.
Well, I've got bad news for you, buddy. Switchblade was banned.
Like
the ban's just now coming through. Vi, Switchblade being the 2 characters not available for being picked. So I appreciate that entire spiel you just went through there, breaking down a Switchblade for us. But
that was enough.
We gotta switch it up because she will not be available for either team in game number 2. Neither will Vi, so no really control, not a lot of AoE coming out very early on. So, of course, we will most likely see some Chocks out there. Possibly we might see a Mac. I mean, he's starting to pop up a little bit in the King of the Hills. But these 2 teams, I don't think, are going to move towards a Mac. But, hey, who knows? Both teams showed some really different play styles in game number 1. So we could see 2 different styles coming out from these 2 teams once again. I mean, Games Awful up 1-0. Didn't look good for them at the beginning, but King of the Hill, you only need to win 2 rounds. And
right.
With the changes, by the way, great changes came out for King of the Hill. Okay, it's not the same rotation for the Hills every time, but it is the same rotation once they're fixed at the start of the game. And then also the timer. A lot of players, they even told me, some of the players came to me and said, listen, I shouldn't have to position my camera in game to see how much time is left on the objective. Now you don't need to do that because the timer is right underneath the round timer at the top of your screen. It's a fixed point a fixed item on your HUD. And then also another big change that came in this update for the King of the Hill, the ability to see where the next hill is going to be. And even when it's not ready, there's that little locked icon while you're still fighting over the one that can give you points. So great job to the dev team there, making some really necessary changes, not only for the game, but for the competitive side of Rogue Company. So we'll get to see that here in King of the Hill as well. Fawn, I got to ask you, have you played King of the Hill 6v6? Because it is, even without Switchblade, it is chaos.
Chaotic. Yes. yeah. I'm glad we used the same adjective there to describe how that feels. Yeah, it is chaotic. I agree with that. Having 6v6 being a part of the new King of the Hill game mode, I think that's crazy, but I have been loving it because of the consistent amount of chaos that we've been seeing. I think there's plenty of more chances to be able to see that maybe in the future when you look at more of a competitive standard. But here we are into the character select already. I was looking at Windward right now. These are a lot of these longer angles, these longer sight lines. You have a lot more opportunities to use different guns here. And a character like Lancer pays off in a big way, especially when we've seen how effective she can be on the rotation. We see the Chalk and Lancer on one side, the Fixer, the Kestrel. But on the other side, Blue, I'm sure you see what character is being hovered right now by the man's Mikey. It's your boy. It's Dima. Will he be locked in? He is. It's a Dima. Here you go. Coming back from vacation, here you are. It's Dima.
But like he got a bunch of buffs, so it's like I'm super excited to see Dima. But then at the same time, it's like,
come on, man.
You had to buff him. Now everyone's probably gonna want to play him. But no, I'm excited to see some Dima. We get to see some EMP action out there. It's funny enough because I think the only respawns in the 10K tournaments that we've seen Dima were on Windward, whether it was Strikeout or King of the Hill. So I think it's hilarious that we keep seeing him on Windward only in respawns at this point. But we do see the Anvil. That's something we're used to seeing in a respawn game mode. I like the fact that they're bringing out a Douse. He's going to bring out the AR most likely. But just that snowball potential from that ability and his passive regaining that automatic recharge on that ability once you get it down, so he can kind of just keep snowballing that, especially since it's a respawn, so he can just keep revealing you even after you respawn there. On the other side, though, you got a Fixer. He wasn't banned, so he was picked. He's got replenished now, so with the Deadeye in his hands, he can get a little dangerous. And already, baby, Mikey O Nation with the Dima getting it down. He's using the KA-30. I don't know about that because the Mamba got a little bit of a buff. Should have pulled out the Mamba there. It was arguably the best gun / DMR in the game. Now, the headshot damage was increased from 24 to 25, and his body damage was increased from 15 to 16. So I already thought it was probably the best DMR in the game, and it got buffed. So it's looking a little nasty. But he elects to go with the KA-30. Meanwhile, a bunch of kills coming through. The objective was taking control by Hefty Lobster to start things out. But after 7 points on the board for them, it gets swooped out from under their feet. And now 31 and climbing for the side of Games Awful. And Fawn, they're already fighting for hill number 2. And it looks like Lobster might have the upper hand.
Seems like that's the case right now, Blue. It seems like the score is 15 to 33, but they're the ones that control the site. It's Hefty Lobster on the blue team, locking down the objective for right now. This Game's Awful are trying to snatch this one away from him. The lead was there, but when you got people like living like Radthar getting the kills, makes it a lot harder to try and push in. He does get lit up, though. Highlight manages to get the damage there. They find a kill onto Cool. The next one has to try push on. Remix goes down. That's another kill, and allows them to hold on to the site for even longer. They want to start making their way to the next objective, as there's 3 of them running down that staircase into Marketplace. They get that kill, they move on, and now they want to try and fight for the next site. 54 to 33, and 20 seconds remaining on the next on this current objective.
I think I'm just gonna start calling this player Living.
Living like Larry.
It's not Radthar, so I don't want to call him Living like Radthar. I mean, he can love Radthar as we all love Radthar, but if he's not playing, I don't want to say his name. I mean, it's crazy. It's like, why would I want to say, you know, why would I want someone out there casting a game with someone using my name? So, no disrespect to anyone. I got to call him living. But look at this. Qualifier number 2 result. Hefty Lobster won against Games Awful. So they actually, these two teams faced each other in the qualifying tournament last week. And Hefty Lobster was to come out. They were looking good in game 1, going into half up 5-2, but their defense was just stronger than their offense. Took them to a 7-7, however. Forced that overtime. Just couldn't finish it off. Highlight making the highlight play there at the end. Now Semtex comes through. Lancer on Lancer. That's got to be a Lancer hate crime from their own Lancer there. A little Semtex action. 24S. Cool finds another one with the Deadeye in his hand. Something we haven't seen him play in a while is Fixer. And oh my goodness, Dima.
Oh,
you got to shoot her. She's in your face. What happened? I think he closed his eyes there, Fawn.
Monitor turned off for a little bit. A little bit of lag. It happens, you know.
He got a little scared,
like that.
A little nervous.
Yeah,
I mean, hey, that's what it was.
Hey, it happens, you know. You can think of whatever it is that you want to, but sometimes it really do be like that. And sometimes that's the only answer you can give. He comes around behind. Did they get 3 kills on the side of Hefty Lobster? That's 76-85, and yet the control, they got a little bit of a point before he rolled off, and they were able to kill him. So with that being the case, I think it's already pretty good. Looking pretty decent for Games Awful, but Hefty Lobster being in control of this site means they have to retake, and soon, because the timer is ticking down. This is the last point of this round, so whoever can take control of it will be the ones that can maintain the winners. They are getting kill after kill, though. Fixer tossing out that smoke, shooting through it. They aren't going to be able to find him, but Highlight will be able to. Cool gets the next one, swings around the corner. The Anvil shield got dropped. Barricade serves the enemy team as Cool gets that knockdown and that kill. They even get another one soon after that. But now it's still the shoe is on the other foot. The Siphon gets the kill, and now it's back on site for his team. 20 seconds remaining. If they can get on site on the side of Games Awful, they can play for OT and see if they can try and take the lead.
This might be the game mode that Games Awful might not be able to withstand unless they're able to come back a little in the back end of this here. 91 now, but it doesn't matter. That will be the end of the round. Hefty Lobster taking round number 1 here in the King of the Hill. This could be the turning point for them. I mean, they went 7-7. They went to overtime in their demolition. If they can win this respawn convincingly, kind of boost their morale, go into a game 3 on demolition, and find out what mistakes they made on canals and kind of tighten those up. Of course, universal ones. There's some that, of course, you can't really change from canals specifically if it was a map-specific mistake. But this is a team that, of course, has made about $3,000. Oh, it's right there. $3.1 thousand so far for Games Awful. And then Hefty Lobster, they've earned about $520 in CMG Road Company, right? That doesn't sound like a lot of money, but that's a lot of tournament play, right?
Right.
You've got to make top 8 in the qualifiers to get paid. If you make 5th through 8th, which they did in the first 2 weeks here, they're only getting $50 a team. So this is a lot of tournament experience under their belt, Font.
I thought the Semtex as well. Grenade traded on either side. A smoke goes out just to try and see if they can get that Birkin for him. 23 points already for Hefty Lobster, and there's still no sign of giving up. That's the first give that we've seen. But they've got only 14 more seconds to stay on the point. A point per second means that the other team is already on the other side. If it's that less time remaining, he's going to have to try and move out. Lancer escapes, barely. Now they have to try to play retake on the second side here. Uses the quick and quiet. Moves on in. Cool gets 1 down. Net goes down 2, but still the kills are coming up for Games Awful. Swings around into the back, and they get that down. They move on to the site, and now it's 28-13. And hopefully many more points available to them as time goes on. But they get forced off. So many nades, EMPs, the whole 9 yards. Ned gets killed once again, and oh man, this is not looking too great for Games Awful.
Yeah, the EMP grenade, something I thought very early on would be very crucial in a respawn game mode, because every time you die, you're going to get it back anyways, and so is the other team with their gadgets. So if you're able to stop them as much as possible with that EMP grenade, then it could prove to be a winning part, or a big part of your winning gameplay. Dima, of course, has those in his kit. Scorch does too. That's why we saw a lot of Scorches. Not the main reason why we saw a lot of Scorches in those respawn game modes before, most notably in last month's tournament. But still, it's something that makes plays and can set you up very nicely. If all they have is their gun to rely on and you win that gunfight, then there is nothing they can do. 43 even. I think this is the first time we've ever seen a tie score in King of the Hill for that amount of time. Just a few seconds, but still, the new hill comes into play. Tries to just nullify it, neutralize it so no one can gain some points. That's exactly what happened there for a few seconds. But now, Highlight comes in, jumps in. Finally, Games Awful takes control, and they're looking to take the lead. This round a lot closer than the previous one. Games Awful made some adjustments here.
Trying to move in, and Sin gets tossed out. He has to play around the barricade just for a little bit. They are going to have to try and force him out. The kills are still going towards the side of Hefty Lobster, though. They were in control for a little bit, but the C4 might change things. Maybe the story will be a little bit more different. Smoke gets tossed out. Tons of APSs. Even though Cool gets the down here, the Lancer on the flank may be the telltale story for this one. 10 seconds remaining on this current objective. As the next one, people have to make headway towards it already. Marketplace seems to be the next battleground, or at least the literal midpoint of the map will be the next objective. As 73 to 73 tied, once again, they're over here playing by the stairs, swinging the corner. No one's going to quite be there yet. Those are the C4 knows he's not there, but they swing around behind and manage to get the anvil low, but not the kill they needed. Tosses out the Dima grenade, and he gets down. He's taken out of the fray. Cool, downed and out. As the score is now 93 to 73. If they don't end up touching this objective, this will be a game 3 that we're looking at.
Yeah, and look at the timer. Only 40 seconds left on the clock for both the objective and the round. Of course, since they will be synchronized for this last objective. Remix finally making his way in. Now Cool coming in to help out. They do take down one, but Livin with that 24S finds one. Finds a second one onto Cool. Dima's coming back. He's got a full kit. EMP comes out. He's got another one in his hand as well. That will connect. They have nothing that they can throw in there. They can't use abilities. C4 comes out. They find one. They find a second. They find a third. Cool did find Livin, but it won't be enough. Time running out. Only 1 second. And of course, the victory coming in 2-0 on our King of the Hill for the side of Hefty Lobster. We're going to game 3 in our first matchup here on broadcast today.
Yeah, I definitely, okay, so here's what's the interesting thing about that is. So you ban Switchblade. Okay, makes sense, right? You have the AoE, you have the Napalm. That's exactly what it is that you should be looking forward to cancel out if this is the map it is that you're playing into. However, the thing is that they just weren't quite able to play around that anvil. I think that's the story here, right? You had all those APSs, you have EMP, smokes, everything coming through. You may have that fixed for sure. That's great. You can see through the smokes. But that anvil barricade set up multiple times on different sites, made it hard for them to push in, gave anybody that locked down that site first a better opportunity. What did we see when Chalk was on point? What did we see when Cool was trying to play, see if he could lock down site for himself? There's 3 of them swinging around. One of those 3 being Anvil. They come around the corner. They force him back. What's the first thing they do as soon as he's gone? They plop down the barricade. Now you have to play past that. And that becomes a little bit more dangerous the longer that time goes on. And eventually that leads to Hefty Lobster's win.
Yeah, they were able to win the respawn very convincingly, too. They just held it down, like you said, with the Dima, with the Anvil. Let's go ahead and take a look at the replays and see just how well that Dima was. Let's see if you got any good replays in there. And, of course, it's the first one that comes up. He drew first blood, and he did it very convincingly there as well. Oh, we get to see Dima get a little messed up there inside the smoke. The thermals being popped, but just the ability to shut down corners, especially on that D objective. I mean, or that Delta objective, right there in the middle of the map. When you're able to set up that anvil shield, you can kind of shut down an angle, and that's exactly what they were able to do. We're going to game 3. It's tied 1-1 between Hefty Lobster and Games Awful. We're going to Favelas for Demolition and Fawn. I couldn't be more excited. This is a map where the defense on paper has the better advantage, but we've seen some teams play some very exciting and perfect offense here as well. So it just, to me, really depends on the team and what composition they can succeed with here.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Favelas is definitely one of those maps. I mean, you mentioned it before, or like just mentioned it. The fact that this is a more defense-oriented map means that you're going to have a lot more characters that are better at locking down sites. We've seen Vi, we've seen Anvil, but then again, when do we not see Anvil? Like, come on. Like, at this point, if you've been watching long enough, you know Anvil's a great character to pick on defense or on offense. Depends on what kind of flavor of Anvil it is that you're looking for at the current point in time. But regardless, I imagine we see the Anvil. I imagine we see the Vi. There's so many great characters to be able to lock things down. If we don't see a Vi, if we don't see an Anvil, then the intel will be extremely important on this map because there's so many corners, so many places to hide behind, and clearing certain angles. Approaching certain sites. It's impossible to clear every single angle it is that you swing around to see. So since that's the case, you're going to want that intel. You're going to want people that reveal the site for you. You're going to want people that make it easier for you to push onto that. Best way to be able to counter out that defense is know where everybody's sitting when they're playing around the site. You can use process of elimination and game sense naturally to understand what's being applied where and when. So since that's the case, I definitely think that there's a lot of different characters that we could potentially see on this map on Favelas. But I definitely imagine we see an Anvil. I definitely imagine we see a Vi and potentially a Seeker, if anything, in terms of intel.
Well, I hope we see it all. I hope we see all of it. Somehow choose every single rogue in this game, ladies and gentlemen. But
every single game it's
a little bit of a bracket update for you. The other semifinal, or the semifinal on the opposite side of the bracket that we're on currently with Hefty Lobster and Games Awful, that's set in place. Takers taking down Beefy Alligator, and Vibes 999 taking out Ruling Pigeon. And then the winner of this Game 3, this matchup, will go on in the semifinals to face out Beefy Magpie versus Most Hated. A Beefy Magpie. That's a CMG generated name. Oh my. Who created this algorithm? Anyways,
those remind me of like
Games Awful. Going to game number 3. It is a demolition. They went to overtime in their first demolition. Fawn, who you got taking this game?
I don't know, man. I mean, Hefty Lobster's played well on the respawn map, but at the same time, we've seen that Games Awful are better at playing those sort of round-to-round, long, drawn-out maps on demolition. So I personally am now sitting in the other side of the corner from when I originally started the statement at the very beginning of the set. I'm saying Games Awful potentially take this one. Beefy Magpie. Wow, that's actually a really interesting name. That's kind of like how they have like the Xbox Live randomly generated names where you first make your account and they give you something like Unzipped Lamp or something that makes no sense. That's so interesting. Beefy Magpie. That's pretty
right in that same wheelhouse. But like you were saying, you're taking Games Awful because you said they played a better round-to-round type of style in that demolition. But I mean, if you look at what Hefty Lobster's done, right? They took him to overtime. It was 7-7, and they could have won that if they just finished off the Anvil being Highlight, who was linked to the Dahlia. They let that res come through. And also, last week, we also mentioned these two teams face each other. Hefty Lobster, they beat Games Awful. So if you're going to go with Games Awful, then I'm going to go with the stats. I'm going to go with Hefty Lobster for this final game. I don't like to choose, because we try to stay unbiased, but hey, I got to go against you, Fawn. That's the main thing here. Whatever you pick, I've got to pick the opposite. Not because I don't like you, because I love you. It's just you got to do it for the ratings out there, okay? The Nielsen ratings, I think it is, right?
Right.
TV ratings, whatever it may be. But hey, if you're just joining us, I'm realBluTV. That's Fawn. Is he over there? Yeah, that's
I'm
fine.
over. Wait, no, I can't pull this way. I gotta remember. It's avoided. This is blue. This is blue.
Yes. I'm realBluTV. That's fine. This is the Road Company $10,000 showdown brought to you by CheckmateGaming.com. If you're tuning in on the Road Company channel on Twitch, especially, and you don't know what CMG or Checkmate Gaming is, it's an awesome website. It's not just for Road Company either. You can play other games on there. You can play Call of Duty. I mean, they've got Valorant. They've got Knockout City. They've got Rocket League. They got plenty of games. Warzone as well, not just the COD multiplayer from both of those, or both of the most recent Call of Duties. I don't know why I can't speak today. I need to eat a banana.
It happens, man.
But whatever it may be. But yeah, CMG, you can go on there.
Yeah.
You can go to checkmategaming.com and you can earn money in tournaments. There's tournaments all day, every day for various games. There's even money matches you can wager against other people. If you and your friends, you guys want to play against each other and maybe, put up $1 a game, you can go ahead and send some chows to each other. But let's go ahead and take a look at the bans that are coming through for this, or not look at them, but I will tell you them. Anvil, Switchblade coming out for this demolition match.
Once again, okay.
Switchblade, kind of a crazy ban in my opinion, since it is a demolition.
Yeah, I agree.
Again, it's favela, so maybe they know something I don't so far.
Yeah, maybe I'm thinking about both of the bomb sites and typically how they go, either A or B, and I believe I could sort of see the sort of versatility that Switchblade adds when you're pushing either site. A lot of them the bomb sites are pretty enclosed spaces, right? Whether you're going into the garage or
especially
if you're
the garage one, yeah.
Right, exactly. So I that's one of the ones that stuck out of my mind immediately. I'm not sure if one bomb site would be enough to ban her. But then again, I'm trying to think of what's the counterplay to that? Cry? If they do go there every time and use Switchblade Chaos Launcher, you're going to get cleared out of that garage site. It's going to be hard for you to stay in there. So since that's the case, maybe that is the bigger brain ban here. I'm interested to see how that's going to play out. I'm also curious as well, because I agree with you. It is a little bit weird to see the Switchblade ban on demolition, but I don't think it's unheard of. And I think if there was a place where you were going to ban her, it'd be favelas because of how both bomb sites work.
Man, that B site might be very devastating with a Switchblade, whether it's on attack or defense. Who knows? I haven't seen it on favelas yet, and it's not going to happen this game either. Game number 3 coming up very shortly here. Once again, Anvil and Switchblade being the bans. Let's talk about Anvil being banned now, because that's a large ban for favelas. That is like the bread and butter when it comes to this map for those defensive teams, especially the teams that really don't want to stray away from what they're used to, and that being Anvil on the defensive side. And so we could see some Trench coming out if you want those APSs in play. Could see a Mac as well. He has APSs, but Trench just brings a lot more to the table, especially with barbed wire. And speaking of changes, you got it.
Yep, I knew you were going to mention
well there, Fawn.
Yep, I knew you were going to mention it.
He
deals
has
5
the same
damage
assault
now.
rifle. Yeah, he has the same assault rifle as Dallas. He also has the MXR. We talked about the changes those guns got in this latest update, but his barbed wire, it does damage while you walk through it now. A little bit more realistic, because if barbed wire worked the way it used to in this game, I would jump a lot more fences in my childhood.
Yeah, that is a lot more to be consistently concerned about, I would say. I am the fact that so for the most part, when you were playing Trench, depending on if you were playing off of Velos versus APSs, like we saw, the thing that sticks out to me in my head is the most beautiful sight of us seeing multiple APSs and people just chilling, sitting in their chairs using the emotes in garage because nobody can push in the site during one of the qualifiers. That sticks out of my brain so often because of how effective that can be. And I think Trench now dealing damage when you have to move through that barbed wire becomes a bit more of an issue. And I think it becomes a bit more of a problem the more it is that you invest time into that barbed wire, since you can't just walk through it willy-nilly anymore. Of course you were slowed beforehand, but that damage, that 5 per 0.25 seconds is going to add up. I'm just being honest with you.
Yeah, even as Secret now, she was immune to the slowing effect of barbed wire, but now you can still run through it, but you still take a little bit of damage, still get ticked with that. Let's look at what the compositions are looking like so far here in this demolition first half of game number 3 between Hefty Lobster and Games Awful. Fixer coming out once again. It wasn't banned, so of course you will see Cool on it. I think he'll have a little bit better success in a demolition with it than he did in the previous game, which was a King of the Hill. But we do see a glitch for the attacking side. They're going to bring out the Ronin, of course, but no intel characters on the defensive side. We'll talk about what she'll be immune to here in a moment. Also, they have the Dahlia and the Kestrel, with those being linked together to come through. On the other on the defensive side, you've got the Kestrel, you got the Dahlia. They're linking together very early on as well. But you have a Vi. That's something that's very defensive-minded most of the time in Demolition. And then, of course, you have the Fixer. Now, Ronin will be immune to his goggles, I believe, because it's kind of like a reveal. And Cloaked works against it anyways. Also, tracker rounds that can come out for the Vi. Won't be able to reveal the Ronin as well. So she can kind of just sneak around a lot better, I would say. But look who it is. It's Livin. And guess what? He's got the bomb. He's playing Glitch. And he has the ability to buy padded steps. So I think he's only played characters that can buy padded steps today. He loves to be a little sneaky guy.
Well, you know, Fixer as well. Them trying to use smokes to make their way onto the side a little bit easier. Obviously, you put a pin in that, considering the fact that you have to play a lot more passively when you're dealing with Fixer. Those thermal goggles obviously make things a lot harder for him. The bomb gets planted by A. They force out the rotation. They fake everything. And not only that, the bomb is planted towards their side, which is even better. They do have to back off, though. Ronin doesn't want to overstep her boundaries. She planted the bomb, and now it's a matter of playing post-plant. Cool comes around, and I don't think he's ready for Glitch to be waiting there with open arms and waiting. He gets the kill, and that's 3 members remaining on the side of Game's Awful.
He tried to snag another one there. Even if he wasn't able to finish off that knock, it would delay them as they would have to go for the revive because it was the Dahlia he was shooting. And now look at Siphon. Finds Neg as he was trying to push into him. Bomb 75%, a little bit above that now as it is starting to tick away. Only about 2 or 3 seconds here. Gets shot up and can't defuse the bomb. The bomb goes boom. And it's 1-0 for the attacking side of Hefty Lobster. Starting off pretty strong here.
Yeah. I entirely agree with that one. I mean, that is definitely one way to start it. Hefty Lobster, they have the point. They're in the lead here. This game's awful. Despite having that plan, despite getting it, aren't going to be the ones that win that round. They play a beautiful retake. And Hefty Lobster obviously makes themselves the winner. That's the first point that goes in this match here, as everyone is already jumping out the plane. Gliders ready. Everyone heads off to site. I do like the draft a little bit of the side of Hefty Lobsters as well. Didn't quite talk about that, but I think having that Fixer to be able to counter out those smokes and having that glitch, excuse me, not the glitch, having that that Kestrel as well, means that it's a lot more prominent to be able to play post plant. There's a lot of things that they have that work out so well for them. And I think it's a wonderful opportunity to try and get that retake going for him. And it just becomes harder and harder the more the game goes on because of that. But Hefty Lobsters did well the first time. Let's see if they can repeat that.
Oh, well, Remix is trailing behind on that A site to see if they're going to try and fake it again. But they faked the fake, it looks like. Glitch coming up on top of the site towards B with the rest of his team. Now they know Glitch was shown, so they have seen him. They've gathered that intel. They know that he has the bomb. Now another rotation coming through. Look at where the rest of the attackers are going. Siphon knows he's been seen. Put some shots down. 20 health to the pool of Highlight playing on the Dahlia this time around. Something we haven't seen him play in a long time, actually. He's usually that aggressive type player. That aggressive rogue out there. Mikey playing on this A site. Don't know why, but he's there. He's playing Dahlia as well. They get the bomb planted towards the garage door on the B site. Neg playing inside of small garage. Will he get lit up? Yes, he will. Remix does find Livin with those Halo drones, but it doesn't matter. Remix just killed himself with a ballistic knife. I think he shot it. It wasn't his. Siphon's the only one who has that ability. Now it's a 1v1 once again. Can Cool pull it out for the second time today? Shots coming through. The objection versus the pistol.
Not the whiffs.
It's not looking good.
No.
Fixer.
Rest in
peace. My goodness.
Man got the hands broken up. You know that for those of you that are in chat that are chilling that are listening, Blue, I don't even know if you know this one. This might be a deep cut. You remember that episode of when SpongeBob is like trying to get ready for something and he cracks his knuckles, like he like splays out his fingers, and when he lifts up his hands, like all his fingers are broke up. Yeah, that's exactly what happened right there. Couldn't even track, couldn't even aim him. Cool was too ready for it, and they make sure that evens things up. 1-1 tie, and that's exactly how things are going to be for this round. They're going into the next one as well. I am shocked by how well that gunfight went for Cool. I felt like that was such a bad fight for him too to take, because the opening shots were already on the favor of Hefty Lobster, and then you have the situation here where Games Awful take that back, and so now they're tying things 1-1. Are we looking at another 7-7 banger? Was that what's happening? I'm assuming that's what happened. That's crazy.
I don't think I've sat down and watched an episode of SpongeBob in about 10 years. So
that's where I remember it from. It was that old, that long ago.
Yeah, but that is
yes,
so long ago.
It is super funny. Old school SpongeBob is definitely way better than the new school for sure, like without question. I will argue with that on that with anybody. It's hilarious.
You're gonna make me look this up and see if it's written by the same people still. But what is being written here is the story of two teams going at it in a demolition 1-1. We're in round number 3 here. Previous round being won by the defensive side of Games Awful. Their defense looked awful in game number 1 of their demolition, but they picked it up. Or their attack, excuse me, but they picked it up on the defensive side. Nice shots coming out from Siphon. Has the ballistic knife. If he can shoot it, he'll find one, and he does on the neg. Livin also found highlight, but he went down to remix with the Halo drones once again for the second round in a row. Look at this. Pick me up. Didn't go for the Dahlia first, so he will not have that link provided to him, which means he can't go down. Cool playing in the back corner. He looks trapped. Bomb's been planted, 25% through. Still ticking away. Siphon playing up close on that garage door. Poison comes out to check. See if anyone's playing close. The answer is no. Backing up is Siphon. He knows what he needs to do. Can they close the garage door? There is a smoke. Fixer went down. Kestrel finding some hits. Not enough. Bomb goes off, though.
Yeah, they do make that work for him. So with that being the case, Hefty Lobster make this a 2-1 score so far.
Oh, wait.
Slow
I don't
dredge.
think the bomb went off. I think they just killed each other.
Yeah, they just end up killing the opposing team. So Hefty Lobster won not by bomb explosion, but genuinely just by them killing Games Awful, their entire team, pretty much. But yeah, I mean, Hefty Lobster won that round. It was pretty quick. They're heading right on into the next one as well. I definitely think that I would be a little bit more careful if I was on the side of Games Awful. It seems like they're losing these retakes for these post-bomb plants pretty badly. Obviously, they won one of them, but I definitely think that it's a bit more of a problem. These post-plant strategies that Hefty has are really, really strong, and it's clearly paying off for him. So.
Another ballistic knife coming through for Siphon. He's gotten about 5 or 6 of those already today in demolition alone. A couple shots onto Mikey. Finally, they finish him off. Cool with the goggles being popped. And look at Siphon finding one and finishing off another down with just a frag grenade. Nice hit coming out from Ronan here in Remix. Jumps up for the drone shot.
Nice
little jump shot there. Like Fawn said, nice drones.
Yeah, those drones definitely the round ender there as Games Awful tied things up 2-2. Once again, this is looking a lot like how Canals looked last time, and now we're in a situation where Favelas is definitely going the distance. I am overall impressed by how consistently everybody's playing, because you have to have a strong mentality on when people play in these tournaments. People don't talk about that from the competitive side of things, about how strong your mental has to be when you're playing for so long, when you're sitting here for hours playing the game and trying to make sure that you adapt new strategies. Sometimes those old strategies aren't working. You can't afford to let your brain go on autopilot when you're playing at some of these games. And I think that's a huge telltale sign as to both of these teams and how they're adapting to each other so well, because the score is only 2-2, but these rounds are going the distance every time.
Those of you just joining us, or excuse me, those of you hanging out with us, make sure you stay tuned after this. Winner of this will go to the semifinal. Face off Beefy Magpie, I believe. But our next matchup coming up will be the other side of the bracket. We've got Takers versus Vibes 999 with a couple names that we've seen time after time again. I think it's the return of Losi, Turner, and Chapo. Chapo Traps, I think his name used to be, for the side of Vibes. And then I think it's the debut for a new player in the scene, Roco, I believe. But until then, Highlight taking out Bluffus. Siphon, though, does find Highlight in return. And, of course, Bluffus gets picked up by that Dahlia Link as well. Mikey found one and finished off cool as well. Only one member standing for the defensive side. It's a buy. He finds one. He finds two. He turns it into a 1v1. They're jumping up and down on the tire rack, and it will be Bluffus coming out with the victory there. 3-2 now. The attacking Hefty Lobster take the lead.
You get that dub, you dust your hands off, and you proceed into the next round. That is a 3-2. Breaks the tie. As Hefty Lobster had that momentum for that round. They take it where the bomb is even planted and win that fight. Now, it's up to Games Awful to see if we'll continue with tradition here and see if they tie things up this round or if Hefty Lobster take this momentum and keep this forward for them. We've seen a lot of back and forth. We've seen this team wins one round, the next team wins the next round, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's about using this momentum and making that the sort of story here instead of it being a reruns of the same show.
Yes, back and forth this game has gone so far. As we're here in round number 6 now. Mikey kind of playing down towards water. That's Ronan with them as well. They might be trying to make a bomb play for the A site. They've been kind of going back and forth here, not really dedicated to one side or the other, just kind of feeling it out, seeing what's happening, and coming around the corner and feeling out Glitch is Neg. So he takes him out, finishes him off as well. You won't have the intel from the iPhone coming out any longer on the attacking side. Doesn't matter, however, they did get that bomb planted. Nice little movement coming out from Neg on the buy. Stays alive, although he does have some backup. He finishes off. He finds Mikey. Now Bluffus into a gunfight. Neg falling super low here. Dahlia playing with them. Siphon finds cool with that ballistic knife. That's another one for him. Oh my goodness. He is a wizard with this thing in his hand today. He's making some plays. Grenade comes out. It's dodged. He's got the K-30 in his hand. Has to swap to the secondary, but it doesn't work out. Neg and Highlight combined for 2. Will they get this bomb defused? Yes, they will. And the tradition, as you were saying.
It's good.
Well, it's going to stay happening so far. 3-3. We're back to a tie.
As is tradition is, as tradition does. We're tying it up at a 3-3. Once again, last round. Well, I guess not last round. The round before last round, Hefty Lobster 1-1. And now, the last round, Games Awful tied things up. And now it's at 3-3. This current round, though, once again, we mentioned tradition beforehand. If it continues, then Hefty Lobster will be the one that wins this round. I don't want it to be that cut and dry, but, like, that's how it's literally been. It has been a quite literal back and forth. Like, this is like I don't really know what else to say about that. Like, it is a quite literal back and forth. It has been one team wins one round, another team wins another round. But it's always been the two alternating teams. It's never been anybody else. So, I mean, it's definitely a bit of a struggle here. Flashbang gets tossed out, flashed around the corner as well. What's interesting to me are these early flashes. I mean, it forces them back because I guess they don't really have like the intel on like who could be pushing them. But they're flashing without pushes, and now they haven't really gained any ground. I don't quite know if I agree with those earlier flashes of anything. They toss out the nade, though. They know he's around that corner. It forces Cool away from his spot. The 2v1 tries to use the melee throw, but gets blown up. Has to drop the smoke. Doesn't want to get killed, but we're already trading things out 1-for-1. Spin, remix, both of them down. Neg, Cool, turn around the corner. They get 1, but that's 2 already for Living Like Radstar. You move on to the objective next. 1 member remaining. Dahlia holds on with Kestrel. It's a 2v2. The bomb gets dropped. Ballistic knife tossed out. Downed one of them. Dahlia's there. And now we're dealing with the 2v1 right now. Can't pick up Dahlia. Remix is already extremely low. He has to find some sort of way out, and he can't make it. Somewhere over the rainbow, there's bullets landing into the enemy team. 4-3 on the side of Hefty Lobster. They break the tie and make this their win in their favor.
The trend continues. They break that tie, and they're the team who should have scored next in that trend that was going throughout that first half. Now we're swapping sides, going into the second half here. Hefty Lobster on the defensive side this time, and they're bringing out a Dallas. And, of course, they're bringing out the trench. We talked about that before the start of this game.
Yeah, you're right.
Will we see one? A couple changes have come to both his primary weapons as well as his ability, which is that barbed wire. And now on the other side, for the attackers this time around, of course, the Chalk coming out for highlights, something we're used to seeing him play on this map in Demolition nowadays. They'll also have the Seeker. Seeker got a couple changes in this patch as well. I was mentioning it earlier. The cooldown on his arrow, his reveal ability, is now 40 seconds instead of 45, so a little bit of a change to him there. Also, the radius of his reveal was increased from 7.5 units to 8, I believe, and also his ricochet passive ability, his damage increased from 60 to 70%, so we could see a couple more bounce arrows hitting people in the body and taking them down if they're low enough.
Seems like they're playing by Big Garage for right now. As things are sort of just slowly piling up. They've made it a pretty considerable distance without being contested. The first nade that gets thrown out might give them the space they're looking for. Barbed wire's in front of them, though. Checking around the corner. One of them swings. He manages to get a couple dinks. He has to be careful, though. Living like Rathdar gets one. They get two with a ballistic knife, but Sven takes himself out. And that's another down.
I was gonna say, he got two.
Manages to get two.
But one of them was not one he would have liked to got, which was himself. Revive comes through onto Bluffus, so the defense back with two members standing. Seeker and Fixer, the two members standing for the attacking side. Cool. Playing that Fixer once more, has the bomb in his possession. Grenade comes out, doesn't go exactly where he wants to put it, and now he has to retreat, but it's not in time. He gets taken out by Mikey. They'll finish him off as well, and it's just Seeker with the 8-3 salvo. That pistol, of course, Fawn, you guessed it, got a couple changes in the latest update as well. I don't know if you knew, okay, but it did. Increased the fire rate, headshot damage was increased, as well as the body damage.
You're with me.
Yeah.
At this point, I think it's safer to just to mention when things don't get changed.
Yes, actually. I mean, that's for sure. I mean, man, he got decked, though. You see that? Came around that corner swinging. Them fists came out. And, of course, that nets the round for Hefty Lobster. But the buffs it was that you were talking about as well, I definitely think that it's like increasing body shot damage, increasing headshot damage means that they have to play the game a lot slower, which is why we're seeing this sort of back and forth. Hefty Lobster has broken tradition here by making this a 5-3 instead of it being a 4-4 currently. So they're doing well in terms of the defensive side of things. Hard to try and push through that trench.
Also got a change.
Oh, yeah, he did. He did get a change, yeah.
Yes, he has Berserker instead of Cloaked now.
Mm-hmm.
I guess Berserker just sounds like a perk that you would use on Shock.
That he needs, yeah.
Yeah, just the way people get aggressive with them, so it just makes sense.
Yeah,
Little reveal through the smoke. That might grab one with it. Cool does find Bluffus with the Deadeye, and now that's when they're going to try and make their move because the revive's coming through. Oh,
nice.
My goodness. Mikey, barely with any health to his name, turns the corner and finds him. After he got that revive, they'll finish him off as well. Neg did find one, but he quickly got returned. Now, only two members standing for the attackers. Make that one. Shock gets taken out. Dahlia's still available for a revive, but Livin's kind of just babysitting him as he turns the corner. I mean, he got it down, which means he gets his ability back. He's going to use it, and they know exactly where the enemy is.
Yeah, just swings around the corner, honestly. He gets that pop. He gets where necessary. And now we're looking at a 6-3. Momentum is in Hefty Lobster's court. Game's awful. Have had a, no pun intended, awful time trying to turn this around for themselves. As this is a 3-round deficit right now. Hefty Lobsters have been doing great on the defense. And we see those trench changes really shaking up the enemy team as well. Every place that that barbed wire's at they are not trying to move through it at all anymore.
Well, it does 5
respecting
damage every quarter of a second, so basically 20
Right.
damage every second.
Right. Which is like already, you know, crazy, right? Like I think it's overall a very strong buff, and people have to respect that, and we're seeing how much respect they're giving it, which is why I'm curious as to why they didn't run it last round on the side of games awful. I mean, they're giving it with the respect it deserves.
You have to use util to get rid of it, so that's a
true,
huge deal. They don't have any EMP grenades. They don't have any glitch potential either, so that's something they're gonna have to deal with. Cool.
Okay. He hit 2 of them
nice
with
little
that.
long-range C4 on the back of cement wall, right to the back garage opening door to the site. Highlight did find Mikey as well. They finished off both of those. Now they're looking at a 4v2, 6-3, still being led by Lobster at the moment. This is game number 3. This is for all of it. Winner goes on. Loser tunes into our stream afterwards. You know they are. I'd say loser goes home.
Yeah, I mean,
they all
I
go
mean to be
home.
fair, I mean, like I think everybody's already at home, so this is a.
They are playing for money. You're trying to get.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Yes.
Trying to get, you know, top 8. The farther
Right.
you go, the more money you make. So they're trying to get as far as possible there.
It's about them. You're right. It do be like that.
Man,
6.
Mikey, only 4 downs, but he's doing his job out there, keeping people from being able to come inside their objective or take over certain angles. Not so much that last round, but hey, 6-4 is still looking good. Only 2 more rounds for them to close this out and move on. They did beat them last week. We've mentioned that a few times. And also, they got to make the finals so that their pattern continues. I think that's what it is. They make the finals and lose today, and then next week they make the finals and win, because that would be a step further. And plus, right on time, since next week is the main event. So I think they'd be happy with losing today if it means winning tomorrow. Look at that. Shot him in the foot afterwards. You're not allowed to get away, he said. C4 did not go where he wanted it to go. I can almost promise that at the time. Livin did find Neg. 1 member down on each side.
Oh, no.
Cool getting a little aggressive. Doesn't win the gunfight. Mikey looks like he closed his eyes towards the end of that play, but he managed to open them just in time to finish off that down. Only 2 members standing for each side here. Bomb being planted, however, on the A site. Highlight.
I like that.
Playing on the site
I
afterwards.
really like that positioning. Yeah, I like the positioning that Chalk has already. Okay, well, maybe this positioning won't even matter. It seems like Remix is putting in the work, and Highlight comes around to sort of swoop on in and make sure he gets the remaining kills. I like that positioning that Highlight was playing on site. He plants the bomb, but then he waits on site. He plants it in a situation that makes you think that he would be off site. Bomb positioning can tell a lot about where a team is playing, and sort of with that being the case, that obviously means that you can mix things up a little bit in terms of how you actually play. With that bomb being planted, obviously that bomb is meant to be played off site. You can watch that from a longer angle. But he played it on site instead, and even though they didn't make it there, I like that opportunity of having the element of surprise based off of where the bomb is planted. So kudos to them. Good job for Games Awful making a good win here. Score being 6-5 right now. They're slowly chopping their way right on up and making sure that they are adapting appropriately, and it's paying off. They've won a couple rounds in a row now. How much more can they keep this up?
Well, they did it in the first game, and it's looking that same way here. They were trailing 6-3 at one moment. Now they've moved back into position to tie it up for a 4th time in this game. Smoke comes out. Excuse me. And now the goggles are being popped as well. Playing a little bit safe, but it doesn't matter. Look at the grenade taking him out. And then, of course, the trip mine finishing him off as he got downed. A little bit of his body hiding behind that wall. Highlight finds Siphon. And now getting right in his face, Living with the incense. Falling super low. Finishes him off. Just peeks around the corner, sees his name tag. knows exactly where to just pre-fire, shoot, spray, pray, get it done. Okay. He's still playing on truck. They know where Neg is. Do they know where Highlight is?
This way they do, but they did see one of them trying to cross over and rotate. The smoke's there, though. I don't know if they're going to be ready. He rolls out. Where is he going to be looking here? Bomb gets planted, but even still, they manage to get it down and do it freely at that. There's two of them still alive as well. They know where Dahlia is, but that's a crossfire setup. You got to be careful when you're swinging this corner. They have to swing together. They want to do something, and they get Dahlia low. No HP remaining. Swings the corner and gets the kill. That's one down. If they get the next one here, they have to push Chalk now. If anything, he shoots him just as he's trying to escape. No man gets away from Dallas. That scouting, that intel is important. And that means that Hefty Lobsters make this a 7-5. One more round remaining. This is match point, ladies and gentlemen. In the chat.
Yeah, living like the lawman there. Living like a celebrity after making some plays, just as he did. I mean, getting both those knocks there at the end of that round. He looked good. Didn't even have to have his teammate there for the double peak most of the time. He kind of just did that work himself. Knew exactly how much health he had and how much he needed to take away from his enemy, and that's exactly what he did there. So great job from Livin that last round. Puts his team in position to close this series and this game.
As they make their way forward here, I want to see what's up. I want to see what's cooking right now on the side of Hefty Lobster. Game's awful. We're still the ones playing more so towards the back. Not really doing too much. Mikey playing around the corner as well. They're playing this extremely slow. They are so patient with how they're playing this. And I think that's a huge testament to how they need to adapt their strategy. They've got one more round in the pocket here. And that's just how it's going to have to be. Flashbang goes out, blinds one of them on the cross, but got like 3 APSs set up right there. It's going to be hard to try and make that play out well for your team if you're trying to use your utility or your gadgets to try and make that way in. The ballistic knife gets tossed out, and I believe that was a direct hit, and it manages to work out. He tosses the grenade, like I said, if you're trying to clear that angle like that, it's not going to work when you're dealing with so many different APSs. Spin pushes in, and they get the kills. This might be all she wrote for Games Awful, and Hefty Lobsters win this on a game 3, 8-5.
Wow, I mean,
well played by
it
them.
worked out exactly the way I said it would. They lost game number 1, but if they look very convincing in their respawn, then they could get that morale boost going into game number 3 and then be able to win that demolition because, again, game 1, they took them very close, 7-7. Whew. Let's take a look at our series replays as Fawn breaks it down because that one was not as close. There was a little bit of a comeback there, but ultimately it didn't work out.
All started out on canals here. Clutch after clutch after clutch until eventually the very first point goes the way of Games Awful. What sounded like what started off as an extremely sorry, not Games Awful, excuse me. Wait, no, I was right. It was Games Awful. The colors swapped me up for a second, but the fact that they were able to do so well there, they were down so far and managed to make this comeback. This was a set of adaptation. This was a set of understanding who your opponent is and how you can play around them to be better. And because of that being the case, that obviously means that things act a lot more differently this 1v1 here. Monitor turns off. It's okay. It all happens to us at the most inopportune times. It's all right. And in situations like that, you got to be more present. You know, you got to have that third eye and that sense where your monitor's turned off to be able to fight that 1v1. But regardless, congratulations to Hefty Lobsters. They played well. This once again is like I mentioned before, a set of adaptation. They were able to adapt to Games Awful strategies and punish them accordingly as the set went on. And we saw that happen because they're the ones that take the win at the end of it all.
Yeah, they looked really good, especially in games 2 and 3. I mean, game 1, again, they looked really good. It was 7-7. They took it to overtime, and if they were just able to finish off the anvil, they probably would have won game number 1. But, of course, Cool, Highlight, Remix, and Neg will not be continuing today in the tournament. But who knows? They might have enough points to secure their top 16 spot for next week's event. But they will move, or excuse me, Hefty Lobster will move on. But hey, we're going to take a quick break, but don't go anywhere because coming up next, we've got Takers versus Vibes 999 in our other side of the bracket for the semifinals.